Welcome to the Mascenic Regional School District Board meeting. Today is June 15th. And I want to welcome not only the members that are present for this meeting, but those who may be online watching us as well. And what I'd like to do is start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ellen, could I ask you to lead us? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ellen.
You're welcome.
All right, call to order. Are there any agenda adjustments to be made?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have under unfinished business, open enrollment, letter E. And then under new business, we added a letter B, advisory budget committee advertisement.
All right, any other adjustments? All right, the date and time of our next meeting will be, if we need it, July 20th. So I'm asking the board to just go ahead and pencil that into your calendars to reserve it. We may not have a meeting in the month of July, but in case we need it, it will be on the 20th at 6 p.m. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And by the way, on your agenda, it should read the minutes of June 3rd and not June 15th. But if everyone's had a chance to review the minutes, may I have a motion either to approve or recommendations for changes?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of June 3rd.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so and we have no one here from the public, and Jeremy is here to do a presentation, and we're looking forward to that. Is there anybody online? No one's online. Okay. We will reserve time for public comments should somebody come either online or in person and want to speak to the board.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is someone taking minutes?
Yes.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right. Board chair remarks. First, I want to share that Mr. Tim Somero has resigned from the board for personal reasons, but I want to say, with thanks from the board, to his contributions and what he has meant to the school district. I know that his interest has been in child and youth safety, academic achievements, and excellence, and he's been a strong advocate in those areas. And we've appreciated all the contributions he has made to the school district by being a board member. And we look forward to his involvement in a number of ways to continue to support public education in this community. Secondly, besides, I already shared that there would be no board meeting in July in case we need one. We've reserved a time. I want to do a little shout out to all who were involved in putting on the graduation ceremonies. I thought the ceremonies were terrific. Congratulations to the graduates as well. It's always a fun activity. And this year I actually enjoyed the individuals who gave speeches. They did a very good job. So thank you very much. We have tonight two non-public sessions. We're going to have a non-public discussion just prior to going into the personnel part of the agenda. And then we will, at the end of the meeting, when we typically have non-public, we will also have a non-public meeting there. Just a heads up, we have 7 items on the second non-public meeting. So we will do everything we can to get through that as quickly as possible, but we have some very important items to discuss. And with that, I think that ends my remarks. So can we go on to Melissa? You want to give your report?
I certainly will. Just a couple of things. My report is very short this month. Plenty of things on the agenda tonight, though, so no worries. But I just wanted to do a collective thank you to the folks who stepped up. This year has been a year where we have been short-staffed in one way or another, all over the place for a variety of reasons, and people have really rallied and put on more hats and taken on more tasks and filled their plates with things. Lisa Walker joined us to help support Mrs. Allen at BMS, and we are just very grateful for everyone pulling it all together, keeping it all going and running smoothly and forward. So, just thank you to everyone. This summer is a ton of projects going on. I'll reiterate that I'm super excited about the number of professional development opportunities and camps we have running for kids. We also will be having a 2-day new teacher orientation this year. We've received feedback every year about things to improve. And one of the things that came back was more opportunity for new staff to interface with building administration and learn the technical components of the work. How do I operate the phone? How do I check my email? How do I put in for a time if I need to take time, right? For an appointment, etc. How do I enter grades? The high school in particular has quite a bit of technological things there to learn. And we have completed some open enrollment paperwork. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. It's in your folders to share. We have some families eagerly waiting to join us. So very excited about this, and hopefully we will be able to fill some of those seats that we opened. So, and then lastly, I just want to acknowledge the contributions of folks who are moving forward or moving on in their career from Mascenic. We appreciate the contributions they have provided to the district, and we wish them well in their future endeavors. And that is just about it.
All right. Thank you very much. Any comments?
Just very quickly, I was unable to attend anything at Highbridge, but I was at the Boynton Step Up Day, and they did a beautiful job. As a mother or father behind me said, we can't get adults to stand up and sit down in unison. So it was a wonderful event.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, would you like to give your report?
Sure. So you have my report in the Google Drive, but I'll highlight a few things. At this point in time, I anticipate a fund balance of roughly $1.2 million, which is pretty healthy. That's still very fluid because we still have purchase orders open, and once we close out some encumbrances, I'm sure that will fluctuate a little bit. Follow up to last month's employee benefits open enrollment. As if the board recalls, you guys approved increasing the opt-out amount. If we were able to get 5 new opt-outs, we were only able to get 2 new opt-outs. So we are not able to offer that increase, which I'm kind of surprised about. And it indicates to me that our employee benefits are exceptional, both cost and quality. So that's, a negotiation tool going forward to keep in mind. Food service balances. This is somewhat good news this month. This is the first month that I think a couple of years that the balance has actually gone down. And that's mostly due to some strong, how do I word that, follow through with families about needing to pay their balances. And working with families when needed too. We certainly, unless they were a senior graduating, we definitely would, do a payment plan or work something out. So it's been successful, although it hasn't been a pleasant thing for any staff member to have that interaction with families. And I'm sure the families don't enjoy it either. So, but it's a necessary evil at this point. I just want to draw some attention that of the $39,000 or so in bad or negative lunch balances, 26,000 of that is just from 60 students alone. So we have some really high balances that we need to start tackling or addressing somehow. That level of debt is not sustainable. The general fund does have to subsidize the program anyways, just because we're a small operation. It's just we don't generate enough revenue to cover our basic expenses. I don't see the general fund being able to sustain this debt, for years and years and years. So Again, with consistency, we're going to meet with the admin team over the summer and come up with a clear plan. That way the expectations are known to everybody, including families, so we're not surprising anybody. And then new accounts over $5,000. There are a few accounts. They're all medical insurance accounts, and that's due to the school care special assessment that we had at the beginning of the year. So now they're showing up as being over budget. The funds are there to pay for it, so there's no concerns there. Expenditures year to date, we're doing pretty good. Spending is pretty much wound down, and there are areas that are over budget, especially student support services, but that's due to having to contract out for positions we couldn't fill this year, and so it's offset by those salary lines that haven't been filled. Revenues, we're still in good shape there. We are targeted to be over our estimated revenues by about $500,000. And a majority of that is really from capital reserve reimbursements, about $300,000 we withdrew from capital reserve this year, and that counts as revenue in our books. But there's other areas that we under anticipated revenue, such as we got the Combell lawsuit settlement, so our legal fees were returned to us, and those little things all add up. Other than that, entertain any questions.
Rachel, I have a question, and this goes to the issue of how our health insurance costs for the employees jumped 26% year over year. As I understand it, the increase was due primarily to the number of health claims that were made and how expensive a lot of those claims were. Do you have any idea as to how we or when we will know what that pattern has been for the current year?
So I plan on asking for a claims history or claims ratio history from school care in July. I'm going to be meeting with a couple of different brokers to get some other quotes for us, and that's something they require to get a pricing. So I will know then how we're doing as a group. School care overall has reported quarterly back to the membership here, and their claims are still high. They're close to 100% premiums to claims, which is not great. They typically budget for about 92%. So, I mean, that trend is continuing.
All right. Thank you. Any comments or discussion? All right. Thank you very much for your report. Mr. Heath Vincent, would you like to give your report?
Good evening. So looking back at the month of May, regarding the technology department, we had 138 tickets serviced by the team for our staff members. 120 of those were classified as troubles or problems that we needed to assist with. 18 of those were requests or changes that were needed to accommodate something across the district. Our SLA targets regarding time to respond right now is 24 calendar hours from the creation of the ticket. Our average for the month of May was 27 hours, which is 4 minutes faster than last month. So we're narrowing in on 24 hours. We made great progress in the second half of this year. And I expect us to continue that next when the school starts the fall. Time to resolve is still well outside the window of 48 calendar hours. We're over 6 days right now. This is mostly like 90 of the 138 incidents were closed the same day. So it's really a small percentage of outliers, which is dragging up the average. I have a few tweaks I'm going to make to more accurately represent. The idea here is that we can accurately understand how long people are waiting for issues to be resolved, how long people are waiting for assistance before we even begin troubleshooting. That's why I created these metrics. And so I'm going to switch to tracking business hours rather than calendar hours, because ticket that's opened on Friday and sits till Monday is already 3 days late. Anyways, a few tweaks like that I think will give us some more, that'll be made over the summer, that I think will give us a much more accurate representation in the fall. There are a number of projects that we plan to do over the summer. These are things that
I identified as needs throughout the school year as I became more familiar with the district and the technology infrastructure at hand and the configuration that we had at play. So I've sort of, there's quite a bullet pointed list. I'm not going to read through every single thing on there for you, but you can peruse it on your leisure. But the highlights are, we do have some changes happening on all staff Windows laptops, which will help us facilitate a large server project where we're going to move away from physical architecture. We will have those physical servers, but the actual servers that we use and the staff are using on a day-to-day basis will be virtual machines that run on the physical architecture. This greatly simplifies our infrastructure and makes recovering from a data loss event a half a day instead of multiple day endeavor. So lots of good things happening over the summer. I don't think we'll actually be able to complete this list. The things towards the bottom are sort of the nice to haves that I hope to get to if we have time. We'll see how far we get. And finally, there's the addendum that shows the history of the ticket quantities and the 2 SLAs that I've been tracking. I'm hoping to any questions if the board has any.
Questions or comments?
Just a quick comment. Thanks for bringing up the business hours and the outliers.
Yeah.
Because as he presented, that 4 minutes, if you
Yeah.
take out the outliers and whatever, right, you've got a
Yeah.
much more accurate and a great response time.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
thank you.
What I'd like to say is that I am pleased that you're actually using data as measurements. I think that's something that everybody can understand as you talk about that. And when you talked about the number of hours to resolve a concern, a complaint, and so forth, I presume that if you use a median as well as an average, that you'd be much closer to your target because it's such a small cluster that's dragging everything down.
It wouldn't be hard for me to add that as just a point of reference. Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you very much for your report. To last but not least, Mr. Reynolds, would you like to give your report?
Yes, sir. Thank you. My report was online for you all. This time of year sees facilities, beyond the normal scope of things. We're tending to the events that happen in all the schools, graduations, set up, take down, while keeping the buildings clean. The end of spring sports season kept us busy. Lots of sunshine, lots of rain. Kept that grass growing really quickly, and good success of some of our sports teams kept us out on the fields even longer. So it was a very busy spring for grounds. Myself personally spent a lot of time the last month with the approval of the end of year funds projects, just meeting with vendors, collecting all my pricing for that, which I will be presenting to you in a bit. And again, apologies as I, once again, have had to push off my state of facilities and reorganizing the capital improvement plan probably until, August, September. At this point, just been inundated with meeting with vendors, the day-to-days, and now with summer upon us, I tend to be out in the field a lot trying to help out and get a lot of our projects done. So we're looking to have a pretty busy summer with a whole lot of projects ahead of us. So any questions? I'm happy to entertain.
Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
Moving on to unfinished business. Mr. Taylor, are you wanting to stay till the end to give your report, or are you wanting?
Whatever works for you.
All right, why don't you go ahead and give your report? Come on up to the mic. If you'll introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Jeremy Taylor, the assistant principal at Mascenic Regional High School. I'm just coming to sort of summarize the results of my proposal that I made back in February or March, whichever month it was. So the initial goal was to have a focus group of community members of up to 10 to discuss how we can create more positive and sustainable community relations with the district. In retrospect, and this, I didn't give you this part of the report, but you know, I probably should have sent out some more reminder emails. So I received 11 total responses, 7 from New Ipswich and 4 from Greenville. I decided to invite all 11, sent out a couple reminder emails in the lead up to, but not the day of or the day before. I had 2 people show up. That being said, we had a nice long, hour-long, I guess we'd call it small group interview instead of perhaps a focus group that still was semi-structured. And some of the feedback was a little surprising, I think. So I thought I would share. I also developed, I'm still want to work on this project. So a little action plan for myself towards the end. I am going to get some more data when I return to my position in August. I figure this time maybe a survey that goes out to everybody might help supplement what I was able to find from this interview. So though it was not my goal, a lot of the interview conversation kept steering towards the budget. My more overall goal was to discuss how we could get support for school initiatives as a whole, and not just school, but district. I viewed this again kind of as a pilot, right? We started at the Mascenic Regional High School level, and then it can kind of bloom out from there to the other 2 schools. So the first question I kind of focused on was, what they would like to see communicated more from the schools. I was not expecting budget items to be dropped here. They were. So I guess, again, it was kind of cyclical. We did end up, every question I asked somehow steered back towards, budget and getting support for the budget. So I think one of the things that kept coming up, one of the participants said, and focused a lot on changing the narrative just in general of our schools. They did give some good ideas. So I'm going to hop around a little bit. I did give you the full summary of results. I think it's 10 pages total. So, read as you will. So one thing that they kind of pushed is that our method of communicating the good and the needs of our school district as a whole isn't necessarily reaching everybody. So there was a long conversation about really utilizing and leveraging the community touchstones in New Ipswich and Greenville. Leveraging churches and social group organizations. Sports are huge, so maybe having district or school-wide information tables at sporting events. Essentially, the feedback we got is though we might reach out at times, the people who are reading it are not necessarily the people who we want to reach. So there was a call from both participants to meet the community where they are, rather than extending invitations. That was also kind of communicated. I've been proposing for community meetings where myself or other members of Mascenic Regional High School will talk with the community, celebrate our successes, share where our vision is going, talk about the student achievement. Particularly we talked about extended learning opportunities in our career and technical education programs. And I got back fairly quickly from one participant that, and again, I'm not trying to be insulting or anything like that to anybody else, but she spread her arms and said, you invited us here and you got 2 of 11, maybe go to them. And so they suggested church halls. She said that there's a social group breakfast on Tuesdays. Maybe we being myself, and kind of leverage those and have some of our meetings with the community there. Ask if we can speak at these already well-attended events, which I thought was an intriguing option. And so I did include that kind of as my summer work action plan, like find some of these host sites that that perhaps I can go to if they'll have me. Another big piece was that was mentioned beyond budget was about the communication sometimes being too much. So one individual talking about the budget said, 54 pages. I read it, but that interests me. So put that out, but also maybe high level 5 bullet point kind of ideas. And then the other participant was a parent and said, I feel the same way sometimes with the communication about CTE or ELO. It's just so much that it's not necessarily easy for me to access. And she called on district-wide or called for district-wide transition meetings. So Greg Pickering, the principal, and myself and our guidance counseling staff are going to be working on setting up a 9th grade parent transition meeting, which is what they had asked for. So we'll talk about that a little bit later this week. That's on our agenda for this week. And we're looking to set that up sometime in August. The feedback there was that the parent didn't know what the next 4 years looked like for her student and felt like she was playing catch up. So she said, it doesn't have to be a dog and pony show, but maybe just administration and guidance and, an auditorium with incoming 9th graders' parents, just saying, hey, these are the changes, these are the expectations, or what you can expect at this new school level. And for planning purposes for the future, these are all the non-traditional opportunities we have for your children. If you want to plan for those. So I thought that was, it just makes sense, right? We do a transition day for students. We might as well include an opportunity for parents. So that will also be something I put out a survey to all incoming 9th graders' families to try to set up, what time of day works better, what sorts of questions do you have? That way we can better, steer that meeting to community needs. Another interesting thing just about presence that came up was, I asked a little bit on if they felt the community would like to see teachers more and get to know them more. And it was a pretty resounding, we know them more than we know. The quote one participant used was the bad guys, the middle management, the management, so they did call and on administration at school and district levels to be present at events. The other one said, I've seen them at events, but we don't recognize them. So, so even when we go to things as an administrative team, some self-reflection, maybe just, introducing ourselves, having those conversations might help, develop stronger community relationships. The final thing I'm really excited about, I've spoken with Greg fairly extensively over the last few weeks, was this idea of having not just community meetings, but perhaps a forum with local business owners to create a Rolodex, if you will, of companies and groups who might be willing to host further extended learning opportunities in our community. And it would kind of create this nice symbiotic relationship, right? Where they're helping our students meet their career and college goals and the state, graduation requirements, while we're also working with them to create employees and town citizens that can function well within our communities. That was not my idea. That was one of the participants, and I'm really glad she brought it up. I am very excited to do that. So that's something else I'll be looking to, dig my teeth into here in late July, early August when I return. It's ambitious, I think, to some degree what I've put forward, but at the same time, I think this can, benefit the school district as a whole. And if it's piloted at one school with ample opportunities for feedback right after every meeting, I want to give a participant survey. What went well, what didn't, what needs to change? Did I speak too much? Right. and I also built in at the end, the final action step is going to, I will end up returning here again next year in the summer to kind of report out on how it went and to get more feedback. And of course, I'm happy to come back as this process goes to report out on the progress. But that's the rough summary.
Any comments or questions?
Thank you, Jeremy, for doing that. Looks like you've put in a significant amount of work, and I'm excited to see some of the changes that will be happening in the district.
I'm excited as well. I think it can benefit us all, and it's gratifying work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Jeremy, I'd like to echo what Ellen said. I don't think people realize how much effort and time it takes to do what you've done, and even if your report, I think you said the full report is like 50 pages, that probably doesn't even speak to really everything that you had to put into it. So thank you for what you've done. As a result of a report that occurred a couple of years ago, the community conversations, were born out of that. And when you said, to approach people where they are rather than expect them to come to you, and these are my words, if I understood you correctly, pare down the information at each session or at each meeting to where it's bite size instead of the whole enchilada, I think is really important. I'm curious in terms of the feedback that you got. Was there any feedback regarding the text messages that go out from the district or the newsletter, for instance? I don't know if that's been effective at all or not.
So some of the feedback I did receive, it's not in this paperwork, but is that not every community member appears to be getting all of the, the text message or email blasts. When I did ask how we were communicating and what they noticed about it, I will say the biggest feedback was that they felt the Monadnock Ledger was not effective because after you use your 5 articles, you have to pay for it. So I also asked about our the podcast because Dr. Pogorzelski created and Ms. Anderson created a podcast about the budget. I did, one about the ELOs, things like that. They were unaware of them. So again, they thought it sounded like a great idea. So it might just be advertising how we're approaching and advertising some of those communications. The other feedback was essentially that from the district, I guess for just amount of feedback, kind of monthly was the Goldilocks zone. Anything less, they felt like they were ignored, anything more, and they start skipping some of the communications. Those kind of day of text message updates, right? If a situation's going on, I think are a little bit different, but one of them just kind of mentioned that sometimes that parent had students at both Highbridge and Boynton. So you have teachers at the lower grades sending out classroom notices, and then I guess it did come up then the district, and that, it becomes easy to kind of skip some of those. I know as a parent, I sometimes am guilty of that myself. So.
Thank you. Anything else?
Very quickly, great job. I really like the layout. And I'm also really interested in getting a larger data pool. I mean, the two, it's so tough because, you could have one from one stance and the other, but there's a lot more out there. And so I think your steps of trying to get it out there, maybe more reminders or whatever, is great, but you got the framework now. So I really appreciate all you put into it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we learn from what works and what doesn't. And, on the way home from the meeting, I said, man, maybe, they all said we prefer emails, but I did get 4 of their phone numbers. Maybe I should have given them a call too, So I think, I need to learn to be a little bit more persistent in my data gathering, but, I'm reflective enough to understand that.
Thank you very much for your report. Greatly appreciate it. Okay. Ms. Gray, the open enrollment.
Sure thing. So this is the final report from Barker Architects regarding the enrollment study. And he runs through his process here, which is 3 parts. Historical data, which is simply the actual past enrollments and the births in the district. The cohort survival rates, which is, when a student enrolls in the first grade, for example, they continue that enrollment over time from year to year. And then the enrollment projections themselves, a 5-year average, a 3-year weighted projection, and a simple projection. Ultimately, the summary on the back page talks about Mr. Barker anticipates that the future enrollments for Mascenic Regional School District will stabilize and slowly increase over the next 10 years to eventually recover to pre-COVID numbers. He mentions a little bit about, a school consolidation, and that was one of the drivers of this kind of a study. The conversations around budget in consolidation and the possibility of that. And currently, we are enrolled at more than 50% in each of our buildings. And so simple math says if we're over 50 and over 50 and over 50, when you start combining things, there's going to be a need for some investment to make one of the buildings accommodate the additional students. So, he recommends, considering all of the factors, but not leaving cost out of that consideration. So, ultimately, some nice information for us to have. And we thank Mr. Barker for his work there.
Any comments or questions? All right, thank you very much. Ms. Gray, you want to talk about the DC trip?
I sure do. We had a couple of questions the last time that we came together about the DC trip, and ultimately talking about the cost of that was proposed. You'll see in the folder that the coordinator from this school year went back to the firm that she wants to use here, and they did some work. And so they've put a second quote in. They've submitted a second quote for us. It has dropped the rate significantly. So we're looking at 49 students at $1,350. And then if we ended up with 2 coaches, 55 or more students, $1,670 per student. That is inclusive of the stipend, which we do not have in the general budget. That's a reduction. We had 49 students at $1,740 in our original quote. And then if we had 40 students only, it would be $1,895. So it's a significant decrease in the quotes there. A couple of things about changing of the vendor from Capital Tours to GL. Their experience with Capital Tours was not what they anticipated. Unfortunately, the coach accommodations were subpar. There was they were dirty. The bathroom facility had a large hole and you could see through it. And so as they had to block the hole in the bottom of the door so children couldn't watch or look under the door and as they were traveling. And then unfortunately there was no ventilation in that space. So they didn't enjoy that. There were 2 different facilitators of the trip for them, and they had different speeches and different spiels all the way through. And so kids left with different understandings of the different places based on which particular tour guide was speaking with them. So unfortunately, that's her impetus from going the direction of GL travel. So what we're looking for tonight is to see if the board can support this second quote with a much more reduced price.
I have a question for you then, Melissa. The price looks like it varies by $300-ish, depending on number of students. Are parents made aware that there could be this variation in price when they do sign up?
Yes.
Is it, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? And so you're looking for the board to give approval on going with the GL.
I'd like approval to approve the new quote from GL Travel. I will sign this contract with that approval.
May I have a motion?
I have no question.
Okay.
Is there a minimum number of students that would need to go? If we went under 40, the contract is null and void, or they have to, are we looking at at least 40 students?
This quote gives us at least 40 students. If we were going to go less than this, I think we would have to reconsider, or we would have to consider what that reduction is, or how that
We're
would
not locked
impact.
into a if you sign a contract, if we have 38 students or 35 students, are we locked into a contract?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
I do not believe so. I'll confirm that before if you want to approve conditionally.
Any other questions? May I have a motion?
I'll make that motion with the conditional clause that if we drop under a certain number, you are not significantly impacted.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Right?
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. You have your approval.
Thank you.
Melissa, I was very pleased to see the negotiations had turned out the way they did.
Thank you. She, this person completed this year as the coordinator, and would love to do it again, but the amount of work that this stuff takes, she really is hopeful that we're going to be able to make something work. So.
Good. Yeah. All right. Next item on the agenda are committee assignments. Now, we have, since the last time we talked about it, we now have an open seat, which has changed things a little bit. So for the time being, this is what I'd like to have us do. Ellen, you and I will continue on the negotiations committee. I will continue to do the advisory budget committee. Jeremy, if you'll continue with the joint loss committee and the policy committee. Steve, I'd like you to join the policy committee as well. Ellen, you'll be with the co-curricular committee, and I will do the wellness committee. Steve, with somebody else coming on, and once they get oriented and we look at what committees, I'm hoping that that person will take on facilities and technology and work with
More than happy to do it.
either of them.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference? I mean, I can vouch for both individuals.
I spent years crawling through HVAC stuff, so that's.
And how say you, sir? I want this marriage to work.
I do.
All right, Steve, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll put you on facilities and policy. And then when we get a new board member, we can take a look at any adjustments that people would like to make. But in the meantime, I appreciate your offer.
Do we have any on technology? Are you doing the interim on that too, you said? Or
No, we don't have anybody on technology at this point,
nobody wants to?
but I'm hoping,
Free agents.
yeah, yeah, no, but there are eyes on you all the time, just to let you know. Okay.
What's the, what's the commitment on technology? Like how often are you meeting? Like, I don't know much about the committee.
I meet with myself 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. 8
I mean,
a.m.
what are you looking for?
No, I would be happy to. I would be happy to have a nothing more than bi-weekly would be. I feel like an aggressive. I would say like month to start, and we can see if that can change.
And certainly we can wait until we get another person on, unless you're feeling the need that we need somebody on the committee.
Are you, in terms of the activity you're expecting your department to have over the summer, is it critical to have somebody with you during those couple of months?
I'd be happy to wait till we have the position filled and see where we go from
Okay.
there.
I'm hopeful that, and we're going to talk tonight about the process we'll implement to fill the seat. And I'm hopeful that, particularly since we're not meeting in July, that by the time we meet again, we will have the seat filled and a person already oriented and have gone through some of the training. So I'm optimistic about that. All right. Thank you very much.
Mitch, one quick
Yes.
question. Last meeting you mentioned stepping in for you while you were away in negotiations. You know the
Yes.
dates?
Yes, mid-September to mid-October. Thank you for bringing that up. And and talking with Ms. Gray, I think there's hope that negotiations will start in August before school starts.
Okay.
And much of the negotiations that we went through last year and agreed on, I think will still stay in place.
Great.
So the number of issues that will have to be addressed are going to be much smaller.
Much smaller. Yeah.
All right. All right. Enrollment. I'm sorry I called it open enrollment the last time when you were just talking about enrollment, but would you like to speak to open enrollment?
I sure can speak to that. In your board folder this evening, you have just some applications and the process by which we want to begin. I shared these with you just for information purposes, but you'll see that there's a non-resident student enrollment application. A couple of things here that are important to note are the kinds of things we're looking for from families. Some notices about space and capacity, and that, joining us is a 1-year commitment, but it also is contingent on, several factors that behavior, academic progress, attendance, those kinds of things, right? There's a tuition information sheet. Because there are two different kinds of enrollment here. There's one where this is a inter-district agreement where we have those two different rates. So that's included here. There's a billing and payment schedule. One of the things that we think is important is the concept of we have a relatively small SAU, and so making sure that we are not creating undue task in collecting tuition payments and late payments, and when those things become more of a challenge and are not supporting a student's enrollment. So that information, that tuition, that sheet as well. And then you'll see the student tuition agreement, which is signing all of those things and saying, okay, we understand and here's where it is. And then finally, there's an acceptance letter. It's just brief and again, spells out some of those conditions.
Any comment?
Question. I'm kind of skimming through this. I didn't get a chance to look at this beforehand. If a student were to be suspended or termination of agreements, I'm looking at 6 here. What happens to the payment they've already made? Is it included in this document here?
It is
Okay.
It is included in here, I do believe.
Last paragraph,
Last paragraph?
under that section.
Yeah.
Under,
Liability will be prorated.
okay.
Thank you.
Then termination, okay.
And
Prorated, thank you.
Yes.
I hadn't a chance to read through it.
It's okay. No, thank you for asking the question. These come also from, these are samples that we were able to pull from a number of districts. And we pulled the things that we think were important to the conditions we want to set.
And
Is there a application fee or anything of that nature with this?
No, thank you for asking that as well. The state does not allow application fees.
We were to do, it looks like you have 3 different payment plans. Like there's no incentive to do one in any way.
No.
If you pay it all up front, 2% off or something, no, but just, something to, or if you have it directly tied to a bank account type of thing to make sure that, those are coming in.
ACH payment. I don't think we considered those as options. I think our rate, our tuition rate is relatively low. in general. And so we feel like we want to hold tight to those positions when we can.
Any others or comments?
Now, I see the deadline for applying is June 30th. Is there any flexibility, or are we looking at holding firm to that?
I
or-
think this year there'll have to be flexibility. We're just getting our ducks in a
Okay.
row, and this is a new process.
Right,
So as I've said, we do have a couple of have already reached out. So
Mhm.
they're eagerly waiting for me to
And
send
would
this
we
off
be
to
able
them.
to, take students mid-year? If a student's in another district not working out, they decide they want to come here, are we looking at, we could potentially accept students midway through the year, or we haven't decided that yet?
I think we could on a case-by-case basis. I
Okay.
think what's difficult is that generally, if I'm unhappy in one place or another, there's a condition for that. And so I think it would definitely have to be a case-by-case basis.
Okay. So there is some flexibility there.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Ms. Gray. All right, moving on to new business. The first item is board vacancy. I've distributed to board members and to the assistant superintendent the steps to fill the board vacancy. It's pretty straightforward, and I won't bother reading through the 10 steps. We will advertise the opening to the community through the website and through Facebook. Asking for anybody who's interested to please submit to the chair statement of interest. And there will be 4 or 5 questions. What is your
Okay.
experience? What are you interested in? Why are you wanting to be on the board? Some general questions. We will conduct interviews with the candidates that do come forward in a public session here with the board. And because this is a New Ipswich board seat, then it will be Ellen and I who will vote. And as added incentive, if Ellen and I don't agree, it will go to the select board of New Ipswich to make that decision. But I am hopeful that we will get some people who have expressed an interest, and I ask board members and other individuals that are here tonight that if you know of somebody that you think would be an asset to be on the board and would have an interest, please encourage them to submit something to me, because we want to consider all possibilities. This position is strictly to complete the term, which in March of 27. And then there will be new elections. So this is the last part of a 3-year term that we're asking the individual to fill. But with that being said, are there any questions or comments?
Some questions on just the interview process.
Yes.
So that's going to be a separate meeting that we would be having. It wouldn't be part of a regular meeting. It would just be a
We
separate
could.
meeting.
It doesn't need to be separate.
Oh.
It's whatever. For instance, if we end up not having a board meeting in July, but we can move forward with the interviews, then I will call for a meeting for the board just for that purpose.
And not that the two of you would not agree in any way, but because it could possibly go to the New Ipswich Select Board, would one of them need to be, or would it be prudent to invite one of them to any interviews so they're aware of the candidates that are out there that they would be making a decision on?
Would we normally record it anyways, that if it came to that, it might be unlikely we would disagree, but
Well-
on that chance,
No, Ellen is already committed to going along with whatever.
I said whatever Mitch. But
No,
maybe,
we would need to record it because we might have people who are going to be online wanting to watch the interview. So
okay, and then
it would
if
be
it
recorded.
got to that, the selectmen could view the recording.
And would the public or select person be able to ask questions of the candidate, or is that just limited to the board members?
I think it's limited
I
to
think
the
it's
board
limited to the
members.
board members.
Yeah.
Yes,
It
I
is.
do believe so.
It is.
I could, okay.
Where Greenville, I'm sorry. Mr.
No,
Chair.
go ahead.
With Greenville, because we only have 2, it does go automatically to the selectmen because we don't have 2.
Yeah, if whenever you were to resign, yeah.
Typically, you would agree on a candidate, bring it before the board, and the board has to get a motion seconded and then vote on the candidate
Right,
as a board.
as a board.
No, wait a minute, say that again? I'm confused.
In New Ipswich, where one area you have an odd number. Of
Oh,
people,
okay, you're
and
saying that that would be the case for
your
Greenville, not for
recommendation still
Northwich.
has to be voted
Okay.
on in public by the board.
Okay, even though the selectmen make that.
No, selectmen in Greenville make that,
Okay.
but it's the two members from New Ipswich that actually bring forward the candidate to.
And the board votes on it.
Yes,
Okay. I'm not sure if that's accurate information.
it is.
Okay, if you could
I
provide, if
will
you
check
could,
on that.
Actually, if you look at the document that was handed
Yeah.
out, after motion and second, vote shall be occur by voice or hand in public session. Secret ballots are not allowed.
right,
It's part of the RSA in terms of the board approves. Back when Chris Lund was chair and we had to do that, the names were brought forth or a name was finally brought forth.
okay, I don't
And
think,
there's-
okay, if you could check with Will Phillips on that, because I don't think that is the case.
Okay. But I appreciate you bringing that up, Steve, and
Yep.
we'll verify it. Any other questions? Or,
No.
all right. Moving on to item B, the advisory budget. More as an FYI, but I would like your, I felt the ABC last year worked well. But I know that there were some challenges that they had because of the length of the budget process of everybody being able to come together, find common times and so forth, and complete their work. So I'm recommending to the SAU that we put out a solicitation for people who would like to volunteer to be on the ABC earlier this year, do an orientation with them in August, so that as Rachel is producing information, we can get them started in considering things. And a lot of that would be for them to understand the process, to make commitments to when they would meet, who the positions would be, the chairperson who would take minutes and so forth, but be able to get them off to a little sooner start than we did last year. I think they actually convened for the first time in October. And that was, and I think that created a little bit of pressure for them, but they rose to the occasion. So I'm asking the board for approval on that to start the process earlier this year, assuming that we get people. And again, I'd like to put out to everyone that is here tonight that if you have someone that you'd like to recommend you think would be good for the ABC directly, or if you're comfortable, give me their name and contact information, and I will glad to reach out to them. ABC obviously is a very important part of the whole process. So any questions or comments, any concerns? All right, I don't know if you need to vote on anything other than, can you think of anything? Okay, all right. Moving on to the next agenda item, Ms. Anderson, you want to talk about school photography,
Sure.
the RFP?
So we went out to bid for our school photography service. I directly solicited 3 companies: Clicks, Life Touch, Barksdale, Geskus, and C3. Bids were due May 11th, and I received bids from Clicks, Life Touch, Barksdale, and Geskus. Then I created a comparison of each of these bids based on the packages they provided. And I'm recommending that we go with Geskus because I feel it has the best value for an entry-level package for our families. The package starts at $12 and includes 11 prints of various sizes. In comparison, our photography services for this school year that just passed or ended, the starting package started at about $20. So I think that will help families out a little bit. Geskus also offers a multi-student discount for families with 3 or more students. After 2 paid packages, each additional student within the family are free. They also offer scholarship packages for students who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it. They offer 50 different picture backgrounds, and as a parent of a student who always wanted the special background and I was too cheap to pay for it, I can appreciate appreciate that option for families. They also offer the district a signing bonus of $2 per student, and I'm hoping to be able to use that signing bonus to get us a high quality badge ID printer. Our current one is no longer operable. And Guess comes with good references and is highly regarded. Both Hollis, Brookline, and Keene school districts provided references. Of course, they offer a 100% money back guarantee, so I'm suggesting that the board goes with Guess for next year.
All right. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Rachel, thank you for investigating this. This does look like a much better company or company. Do they realize how many free students they may have to be paying for in this district?
No.
And you're not sharing that in front. Okay. May I have any other questions or comments?
Right.
May I have a motion to accept the recommendation for Guescus for Mascenic's photography?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, Rachel. Would you like to talk about the RFP for propane?
Sure. So the district went out to bid for propane suppliers. Craig did some direct solicitations in addition to posting it on our Facebook and on our website. He solicited Eastern Propane, LNG, Chiardelli, Suburban, Hafner's, and Rhymes, and we received 2 proposals back. One from Superior Plus, which is also Rhymes, for $2 a gallon for a 1-year contract, or $1.99 a gallon for a 2-year contract. And LNG propane gave us a $8.9 per gallon. LNG is our current supplier and has been our supplier for several years. We are overall satisfied with them, and the price cannot be beat. So I am recommending that we go with LNG propane at the price of $1.28.9 per gallon for fiscal year 20.
Any questions or comments? I have a motion, a request for LNG as our contractor. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Anderson, you're dominating this agenda. And you're doing a very good job. Do you want to talk about wood?
I
The
do.
RFP?
It's a very exciting topic. Again, we went out to bid on this, posted on Facebook and our website, and Craig also directly solicited a couple of companies. We are in the same situation as we were last year, where there's really truly only one supplier in our region. The other 2 near suppliers are in Maine and Vermont, and they were not interested in providing a quote due to the distance. So our sole bid we received from Lime Green Heat is for $350 per ton, which is an increase of $27 per ton, or about 8.36% over last year's pricing. Our fiscal year 27 budget can sustain this as long as usage is similar to prior years. So I have no concerns there. So I'm looking for approval for Lime Green Heat at $350 per ton for wood pellets.
All right. May I have a motion to RFP from Lime Green?
I'll make that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, Rachel. Since you're on a roll, would you like to talk about grant management services?
Yes. So I'm seeking approval to renew our grant manager services contract with Diane Legendre for next school year. She's highly skilled, always available, and very accurate with her work, which is a huge thing when you're dealing with federal money. Her fiscal year 27 proposed contract is the same as prior years. She is asking for $70 per hour for remote work, $75 per hour for in-district when she has to travel here. I believe she lives up in the Plymouth area, so she does not frequently come down, so most of her work is remote. She is a paid contractor and receives a 1099 at the end of the year, so we don't pay any additional fringe taxes or benefits or anything like that. And our budget can sustain it. We are looking at a budget of $28,000 for next year, and our year-to-date in this current year is roughly $21,000. So I'm seeking approval to waive the multiple bid quote policy and to enter into a contract with Diane Legendre for grant management services.
May I have a motion to waive the multiple bid policy and enter?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Craig, do you want to talk about end of the year funds, facilities, vendor selection?
Yes, all book of pricing. I'll try and be as quick as possible.
Give us the highlights.
Yes. So end of year facility approved in the May school board meeting. So this would be the all the projects that are over $5,000 requiring or multiple. The estimated cost of all the over $5,000 projects, it was given the fund. My guesses in last month's meeting was $221,225. Dugout wall repair and floor at the high school. I got 3 quotes from folks, and I am recommending Knox Concrete Construction at $8,500. The least expensive, and they are a current vendor and have done great work for us in the past. Replacing the fire alarm system at Highridge Hill. I did get 3 quotes. Again, 1, 2, 3. I take that back. I got 4 quotes. We did advertise all our summer projects. Businesses looking to come in and quote. So those 4 prices. My recommendation is to go with First Alarm and Electrical Services at $48,000. Is the least expensive of. I have not used him as a vendor, but did reach out to folks, other school districts that he works with. Get a great. Replacing the fire alarm system at the Science and Tech building of the high school. Again, got 4 quotes for this, and I am recommending American Security and Fire at $9,950. They are our current vendor. Again, at least they're trying to group both of these together and use one vendor, but trying to be fiscally responsible. And they're both great companies as far as I can see. So just went with the saving the money option for the district. Worked out this way.
Just real quick on those
Yes.
2 vendors, just, there's nothing.
They're actually had both quoted using the exact same system for replacement. So, and it's installing the system is one thing. We still have a company that monitors all these systems, so that as of now would not change. The well system repairs across the district. I did receive a quote from Caswell Pump for $25,388 for all the work on the 3 different systems. I am asking that we waive the 3 quotes. Caswell Pump has been involved in all of our well systems from the beginning. He knows the history of them. He knows where everything is. He is an incredible vendor for us to work with. He comes same day if we have issues. So I'm hoping knowledge of our systems. For that, recommending Weatherby Plumbing and Heating at $20,600. Current vendor of ours, they were the lowest price, and they do great. Super happy with them as a vendor. Heat exchanger at Highbridge, again, 3 price dollars, again, lowest price. Current vendor. Replacing the hot water expansion tank and check valves at Highbridge. B Plumbing and Heating at $5,500. same reasoning. Hydrofracking of the 2 wells at Boynton. $500. I did also contact Skillings and Capital Well. Did not receive quotes battle vendor who has experience working with all these guys. Kentucky has the equipment we need. If you know the location of our wells at Boynton, it's like up in the woods, up the hill, and is huge. You know, they do them in a lot of open areas. Kentucky is one of the only companies that has a smaller size vehicle to get up there and do the work that we need. So again, I was hoping to, where I didn't get 2 other quotes, I did reach out, but hoping we could use them as the sole source provider. Replacing the AC system in the MRHS, it's a computer lab room 347. 3 quotes recommending Weatherby Plumbing and Heating at $16,100. Least expensive by far. And again, a current vendor that does great work for us. The tinted safety film on classroom doors across the district. This is got 1, 2, 3 quotes, and recommending New Hampshire tint for $11,400. They were the lowest price by far. So that's that. Door replacements at both at Highbridge. 3 quotes recommending dependable lock at $6,346. They are and also replacements at BMS. Got 3 dependable lock for $5,500. Lowest pricing on all of those. And lastly, the purchase of district radios. We have 1 quote from Heilman Secure, $12,704.23. That would get us 77 radios at his pricing. Heilman Security, we as our primary safety to do the training and meet with us and stuff. So I was hoping we could, as a sole source provider, to supply those radios for us as well. And looking at all my reckons, cost for these projects would be at $199,613.23, which is about $21,000 in savings as than originally quoted.
If I may, I just want to add, Heilman Security provided the initial allotment of radios. And so going with them again also provides the interface that we're looking for across the district.
So happy to entertain any questions on this.
Any comments or questions? I want to say I appreciate the effort and work that goes into securing multiple bids. There's a lot to be said for being able to stay with vendors that you've had good experience with. And it's nice to see that also the lowest price.
Absolutely.
So you got 2 for 1 there. So may I have to accept the entire slate of contracts that Mr. Reynolds is presenting? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you.
I think you have the next one up, project vendor selection.
Yes. So built into my FY27 facilities budget are 3 projects. First one at both the high school and the middle school, we have flooring replacements built into the budget. So I reached out for pricing on these items. Received 4 prices from ranging from $16,000 at the middle school, ranging from roughly $16,000 up to almost $34,000, and at the high school around $20,000 up to about $39,000. So I'm looking for action of the board to approve ARC Flooring and Tile as the selected vendor, as they were the lowest bid on both projects at the middle school and high school.
All right, may I have a motion to accept the ARC Floor and Tile as the project vendor.
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, Craig, you have that.
Next is a paving project at the middle school. So this is the driveway up to the sports field that is severely deteriorated. Got 3 quotes, JDK Pavement, Champion Paving, and Shattuck Paving. And I am seeking action of the board to approve the proposal from JDK Pavement as a selected vendor for $11,010.
All right, may I have a motion for that? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We have that.
And lastly, concrete project, the front entrance of Highbridge. I think last year, or the year before, we did the main entrance area was pretty deteriorated. Now the wings of that front entrance kind of took a beating this winter and are becoming very unsafe. So we'll be replacing the concrete, the wings at that building. Got 3 prices: Knox Concrete Construction, DSL Concrete, and Liberty Custom Carpentry. Seeking action of the board to approve the proposal from DSL Concrete as the selected vendor for $8,000. They were the least expensive, and they actually did the previous concrete work as well. So.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the DSL contract? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, and
Thank you.
thank you. All right.
Craig, I'm considering this the first meeting of the Facilities Committee.
So moved.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Gray, do you want to talk about memo HB 1300 and HB 1610?
I don't know if I want to, but I certainly will. So we received a memorandum from Sule, Leslie, Kidder, Seaward, and Lohman regarding HB 1300, HB 1610. HB 1300 establishes a district to be voted on during the state's general election. It's a 3 go into effect fiscal year 2028. The cap essentially is the levy minus capital bond costs plus inflation plus the party growth. So there's some short-sightedness there, right? If I got a family who moves into a home that's existing and there were no children there and then it for the number of children that are coming into a district in this cap, that's just the first one as I start to think through this. But it also removes some have already been voted on by the local taxpayers historically. And then HB 1610 to vote annually on whether to allow retainage of the year-end unassigned general funds. This is a limit on the amount to be retained at 3% of the current fiscal year's budget appropriation. Any approved retained unassigned general fund can be expended. So this means that all fund balances authorizations previously approved by the adoption of RSA 198.4-B2 will be rescinded. So assigned general funds still retained by the district at midnight, June 30, 2020 would be considered revenue for fiscal year 27. And essentially that goes back to the taxpayer to reduce the amount of taxes that needs to be raised for 2027. So in conversation or in thinking about this, many districts have sent some boards have been working with their superintendents and sending notice to the legislature about it. I've reached out about that recently. And the way that we see it internally is there are a couple of options. One, we let this play how it's going to be. Two, we very quickly establish a plan before you tonight on how to spend what we have retained, which is about $299,000. And ultimately, the third is we intentionally return the fund to the tax. So that's really for the board's consideration.
Any thoughts, members?
It's a lot of information.
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me. Um, Is there a timeline in terms of when we have to propose? Is it tonight?
Yeah, we only have, if the board were going to choose the second option, which is to devise a plan to spend the retained balance that we currently have, we would need to have those expenditures to you, and then we would likely have to call another meeting to present those findings. It's a highly unlikely scenario, quite frankly, for us to pull off with the time that we have left. Craig doesn't want to add this to his quotes and bids, I'm sure. We'll do what the board prefers. We can see how this plays out. As I said, there are voices out there around this and the detrimental impact. People are paying attention, and so this may that they want to return those funds.
So I just want to clarify that
Thank you.
the governor has not signed it yet. So if the governor signs it, then we're in that situation.
Yes.
Some districts right now are planning ahead and saying, well, if the governor signs it, I'm going to spend that retained fund balance now on something that I know I need because I'm not going to get that. I'm not sure if I recommend that necessarily. I think there's a transparency issue there. And I know our community is very sensitive to that. But the governor signs it. I have contacted the governor's office and just explained the impacts of it. I didn't urge her to do either way, but I explained to her what that would do to us. Also, it's essentially our emergency piggy bank. If something were to happen during the school year that we haven't budgeted for, we are allowed to access those funds. So again, it's up to the board how you want to handle it, but
To the governor? Do we?
I believe it's sitting on her desk.
Okay.
It's in the pile of bills that have been passed by both bodies and just waiting,
Just waiting.
whether
Okay,
she
so-
takes action on it or not. I don't know if Steve has more insight on that.
I think it's close to the best. I think the main issues, one is that it's going to take a supermajority 3/5 on the ballot to approve it. Secondly, she can not sign it, and it can go into effect simply by leaving it on her desk. So which ends it, but if she does nothing and it just sits there and it passes the number of days from the time the bill reached her card.
One
Okay.
component,
Yeah.
right? They're
the
two different bills.
The tax cap requires a 3/5.
3/5.
In the current fund balance, it's just a matter of the governor signing it.
Correct.
And that
Or not.
becomes in
And
effect
she
immediate.
taking action.
What's the time frame on that? Taking action. I think at the federal level. I think.
I would say 30. I mean, normally it's done for political reasons. That you don't take action
Right.
before, just
But I
given where we are in time, I think just seeing how it plays out is probably our only option.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I don't think we're in a position where we can voluntarily give it back.
A lot of the agencies in the state, because they lose the money if they don't spend it. And they spend all this money, and so that's usually not a good option.
No.
No, I don't.
No.
At all.
We need to vote on that, is that an action or just?
I think we need to give some guidance to the leadership. I'm probably least knowledgeable about this tax cap. I go with the discussion so far. It's just opinion.
No, I agree with you on that.
I don't think so.
All right, I think we're in consensus.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think this sort of, what I'm hearing from, this is the same problem in Massachusetts has gotten into in 2.5. So 2.5, and they have to. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of pushback on that and local control.
Sounds like it could be a mess.
And for a real solid reason and, but I agree. See, just wait and see.
All right.
If it were March or April, I could say something different. 15.
Tackle a capital improvement project, we could do something like that. But again, I think it's not a transparent option. It's a rush to judgment option. And it just doesn't feel good to do that. So we're ready for the next item,
Yes,
Mr.
let's
Chair?
move on to the MOA for capturing kids' hearts.
Yes. So Capturing Kids' Hearts as a grant-funded initiative for Boynton Middle School, and we'll bring a team from each of the other buildings to this 2-day training and this year-long initiative. In order to make that happen, we have to make an adjustment typically at the start of the school year, and in the approved calendar have 3 days. 2 of those are professional development days, and 1 of those the teacher setup day. And the principal, Mr. Clark, he was willing to forego his principal day because he believes in what the staff was a resounding absolutely not. We needed administrator day. And so they suggested this plan that actually it is moved during the weeks of through 21st in exchange for the marked as a professional development day back to back. And so participated these 2 days would not participate on March. I need board chair's approval and then the bargaining agreement that this would be.
Only applies to Boyd.
Pass that over. If
It only applies to Boyd.
it applies to who are going to participate, we would consider how that's going to impact them as well.
So are you looking for board approval on this?
I'm looking for the board to allow you to sign, Mr. Chair.
Okay. May I have a motion to allow me to sign this agreement?
Aye.
All in favor?
Right to wrap.
Okay.
As you're signing, I'll go on to the next things, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The Reading Foundation New Hampshire contracts. We have had the Reading Foundation for students with dyslexia this year, and that partnership has been fantastic in supporting some of our students who are really struggling to learn to read. We have an opportunity to have intentional teacher coaching and to continue support directors will be paid for with CSI funds. Students, what I'm looking for is for the board to allow me to send for $20,000 for the contracted service professional development, teacher training and consultation, and then to direct to students at $75 an hour for direct instructional and consultation services. Materials cost in this one as well.
All right, may I have a
$40.
motion to allow Melissa to go ahead and sign?
Cap on the contracted services.
It's contingent. It is instruction to identified students and at an hour at a time. Days per week through the right at the start.
Allow Melissa to sign both contracts. Any opposed, any abstentions?
Mrs. McBee provided a life skills transition required for the Department of Education to approve our life skills program. We're in the fight to instruct the program. We have to identify the staff who will be participating. This for special ed department, the DOE to approve the program, skills transition program, and you'll see the program goals including extended learning opportunities, program schedule and availability. Permission for the board chair and myself to sign this program.
Motion to accept the alternative life skills transition program. Yes. Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay, thank you. All right, and we're going.
Well, last is the DAF suite of policy. It outlines our federal procedures and how our policy required for us to move forward applications in July, and we want to be able to earmark any of those funds for project and action tonight on those, if possible. They are quite lengthy.
The only thing that I recall that kind of that went up to 15,000.
Yes, it did.
It was 5 and it went up. The way things are, it's not unreasonable in any way. We found the
$15,000 is the threshold here in the district, and then that I've looked at the suite. And so the adjustment was in alignment with what's currently in practice.
All right, with that being said, and knowing that the policy committee reviewed the policy, can I have a motion to accept As a first read, the administration of federal grants funds.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I have some clarification. Was that an approval of the policy? That was just a first
Yes.
reading? The motion was only to accept the first reading.
Oh.
You want to do a motion to take action on it?
approved, yeah.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We're going to go into non-public first. So would you mind doing the minutes? You are fantastic at doing minutes for non-public. We are, can I have a motion to move into non-public? Second? Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay. At 7:32.
You have to cite.
You want to